The case is being handled by attorney Ken Dandar, who has his own theory about what happened over those 17 days.
So could you imagine Lisa McPherson, who is mentally unstable, according to Scientology, is having these people come in and try to force feed her, and she's yelling and screaming at them, she's banging on the wall, she's fighting with them, she's asking them questions, but they are not allowed to respond to her. All they can do is turn around and walk out the room and then write a report to the case supervisor and close the door behind them. And she's not allowed to leave.
Dandar is an idiot. That's my response to that. He hasn't got a clue. He is the worst of what makes the American legal system so out of control. He is an ambulance-chasing gold digger.
My reply to that is simple. If they had called an ambulance for Lisa McPherson, I wouldn't be here today.
The Scientologist never did call an ambulance, but on the 17th day, Lisa was at last taken to a hospital in a church van. It didn't take Lisa to the closest hospital, which was just a few blocks away, or the second closest, or the third, or even the fourth nearest for that matter. Instead, they drove to Newport Richey Hospital, 45 minutes away, and it was during those 45 minutes that Lisa McPherson died.
She certainly would have made it to the hospital that's only a few blocks down the road, alive, and where she would have been provided the appropriate care.
Why was Lisa taken so far away when it was clear that she was ill?
I think that the answer to that question comes in the doctor who was at the Newport Richey Hospital was a Scientologist. Lisa McPherson had obviously had some mental problems, and I think that people thought that the best situation would be for her to see someone who was a Scientologist. The people at the hospital had no idea what had killed her. The people who were taking care of her did not know that she was going to die. It was an accident, and it was sudden.
One of the first things that gave investigators great pause was the inordinate loss of weight on the part of Lisa McPherson.
Wayne Sheeler is with the Clearwater Police Department.
The paramedics who attended her at the scene of the wreck estimated her weight to be around 150 pounds. But once she was pronounced dead, her weight at the time of death was 108 pounds, and her appearance was rather cadaverous.
She lost more than 40 pounds in 17 days?
That's what it would appear.
An autopsy indeed showed that Lisa McPherson died of a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that traveled to her lung. But according to the coroner's office, it was caused in part by what happened during those 17 days. The autopsy report says Lisa's death was due to bed rest and severe dehydration. In fact, the medical examiner, Dr. Joan Wood, theorized that Lisa McPherson had little to no fluids for the last 5 to 10 days of her life. She also believes that Lisa had bruises and insect bites all over her body. The church, which says it will prove the lab findings are flawed, has taken to the streets to protest what they say is a smear campaign by the Clearwater government to discredit the church. Both sides now await a decision by a Florida prosecutor on possible criminal charges in the Lisa McPherson case, a decision that could come any day. Meanwhile, Del Liebert's battle with Scientology is a civil matter that has turned decidedly uncivil.
What her motivation is? Money. Pure and simple. She is pretending to represent the interests of Lisa McPherson. She is representing Lisa McPherson's estate. I can assure you that the last thing that Lisa McPherson would be doing would be suing her church.
To them, this is bad PR, but I want people to find out, all over the world, for it not to ever happen to anybody else, what happened to Lisa.
Heber Jensch is the president of the Church of Scientology International. He's in Los Angeles. Mr. Jensch, good evening.
Good evening.
Those affiliated with Scientology ran an orchestrated campaign pressuring us to not run the piece you just watched. Do you not consider the mysterious death of a young woman in the care of Scientologists as a valid reason for outside questions?
I consider the fact that your people were given information, Brian, that they did not put on the show, and there were very specific information that they could have used. Joan Woods, the medical examiner, she never did the autopsy on this case, and that was known to your people. It was done by a Dr. Davis, and he did the actual autopsy on it, okay? And in his autopsy, he said he did not agree with Joan Wood, the medical examiner. Davis did about 25 autopsies. 24 were completed. One was not completed. The reason that one on Lisa McPherson was not completed was because his notes were not available. They were not available because Joan Wood, the medical examiner, destroyed those notes. Then she goes on national tabloid TV and starts blabbing about all these kinds of accusations and so forth. That is sickening to me. It is sickening that it has to be done that way when your people had the information. And then she says to Davis, who did the actual autopsy, wait a minute, let me finish this one point.
Go ahead.
She did not let Davis talk. She said, don't talk to the media, don't talk to anybody about this, don't talk to the church, don't talk to the police, and she ordered him not to do so. That's obstruction of justice. That's just one of the things that she did. Your people had that, okay? Why is it that's not there?
Mr. Jentz, your people were well represented in the piece throughout. Mike Rinder was well heard, Laura Vaughn was well heard. Let me ask you, your people had every right to intervene with Scientology principles. No one disputes that. But at what point, sir, does Ms. McPherson have a right to say, I've had enough, I want out?
She didn't say that, and I have with me the psychiatric examination given here. She said, I want to go home with my friends in the congregation.
That was before the 17-day stay at the hotel.
I have right here. This is the document right here.
Mr. Jentz, your own logs show that she's fighting with your people, yelling at them, pleading with them, but they are not responding, not letting her leave. At what point, sir, does that become a legitimate case of someone being held against their will?
Our people were helping her in every possible way, and if you look at those notes, you will see very clearly that those people were heroes. They were taking the abuse. They were attacked and so forth. They loved her. And the people who were saying these things hated her guts while she was a Scientologist. They hated her completely, and they hate her in death. Our people loved her. They respected her. And Lisa was a church member. She was always a church member.
Mr. Jentz, even if I accept that those people loved her and wanted to take care of her, your own logs clearly depict a woman with a deteriorating mental condition and failing health. Do your people have no responsibility to have those maladies professionally addressed?
You're saying that a psychiatrist is going to do something which is going to be better. You know, and there was a case in Miami, Florida, which dealt with directly. And there was a fellow who was also dramatizing like this and carrying on. You know what they did to him? 11 attendants jumped him. They threw a blanket around his head. They kneed him in the back.
I never mentioned psychiatrists, Mr. Jentz.
No. Well, I'm telling you because that's what you're saying. You're calling those people professionals.
They're not professionals. She was in failing physical health. Do they not have any responsibility to get the maladies addressed?
The last time when she started to deteriorate was very rapid, and they took her to a hospital. But you're saying that it should be a psychiatrist. I'm saying that if they went to a psychiatrist, she would have been destroyed by them. I never mentioned the word psychiatrist, sir. I know, but you and I talked earlier today, and I did mention it, and you know that that's part of this case, and you know that was part of the problem with this, okay? Psychiatrists destroy people's lives. They have the highest incidence of rape and so forth. She didn't want to go there.
They have the highest incidence of rape?
Of any profession. There's 2,500 indictments against psychiatrists in this country last year alone. Why would you go to a bunch of people like that who use electric shock, and that causes brain damage? That destroys people's lives. She didn't want to go there. She had a right not to go there with a psychiatrist. This lady was taken care of. You know, Mr. Gumbo, that situation down there is bigotry, and I told you about it. We have the information. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals said that there was there was a fervor against it. This is just incredible.
Sir,
they said it was patently offensive.
Sir, I'm going to have to let that be the last word.
I'm sorry, but you know.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Here again is Bryant Gumbel.
Before we leave you, we want to share some feedback, some of which you've been emailing us since we came on the air tonight. Claude, thank you very much. On our report on imported produce, this one comes from Justin H. in Knightdale, North Carolina. If the USDA isn't going to inspect it properly, they should not put their label on the product. I am disgusted with this agency, which is supposed to protect us. And on another topic, this one from Ed R. in Pennsylvania. He writes that Sonny Bono was an icon of the 60s, not as big as a Beatle, but as loved. And as you might expect, we're being deluged with a number of emails about our Scientology report. That's about it for us for tonight. Now here's Dan Rather with a look at what's ahead from CBS News.